Apple's iPhone 14 Pro is said to be the phone that could shake up the iPhone range by potentially bringing in a notably different design from the iPhone 13 Pro. So far, the rumors have hinted at everything from the death of the notch to the return of Touch ID. This is probably well overdue. As good as the iPhone 13 Pro is, it's arguably not a definitive upgrade over its predecessor, and overall the iPhone hasn't taken a huge leap forward since the iPhone 11 Pro. Going by all the rumors so far, we reckon September 13 will be the launch date for the Apple iPhone 14 range. After that, we can expect pre-orders of the iPhone 14 range to go live the Friday after the Apple event September 16, with the phones being released a week later, likely on Friday September 23. This would be 10 days after the rumored Apple event. Somewhat reliable leaker leaks Apple Pro has claimed 3 of the 4 iPhone 14 models are tipped for a price hike, but it's definitely just a rumor. However, it's a rumor a lot of people are buying into, as a subsequent report also claimed, and as iPhone 14 Pro price hike is in the works. Based on these rumors, the iPhone 14 Pro would start at $1,099, which is a $100 hike over the $999 iPhone 13 Pro, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max may see a similarly $100 increase, hitting at $1199. This relatively significant leap in a launch price would certainly sting the wallet of anyone hoping to score a high-end next-gen iPhone 14. Furthermore, when a new iPhone arrives, it often means the end of the line for older iPhones, with the iPhone 13 mini looking to be the likely phone to get cut from Apple's smartphone lineup. As such, we have dug into which iPhones could be discontinued when the iPhone 14 launches. iPhone 14 Pro design. Tipster John Prosser has showcased a suite of renders supposedly based on leaked information which reveal possible big changes for the iPhone 14 Pro. Prosser's renders show a trio of cameras flush with the iPhone 14 Pro's back, but if that sounds nice, you might be disappointed by some rival that show the iPhone 14 Pro models looking a lot like their iPhone 13 counterparts. The raised camera array is back and even bigger on the iPhone 14 Pro. The new phones are also rumored to be 0.2mm thicker than the iPhone 13 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. Other reports also have the rear camera module tipped to get bigger. The reason for this, according to reliable Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, is that a larger module is needed to house a 48-megapixel camera. As a result, another leak claims the corners of the iPhone 14 Pro will be getting rounder to better match the curved corners of the new module. Perhaps the most notable rumored design changes for the iPhone 14 Pro is the removal of the now infamous display notch. Display analyst Ross Young expects Apple to offer a pill-shaped cutout for Face ID along with a punch hole, so there would be 2 cutouts. This design is now seemingly locked in according to rumors from Everything Apple Pro. This rumor are given more credence with what appears to be a leaked supply chain photo showing off the display panels for all 4 iPhone 14 models. Our best look at what all the design changes add up to can be seen in some iPhone 14 mockups posted by Alibaba and shared by Mako Takara. In the case of the iPhone 14 models, you not only see the two cutouts on the front display but the larger camera module. Motorola reports that iPhone 13 Pro cases won't fit the iPhone 14 Pro because of that bigger module. Speaking of cases, a claimed case leak shows 4 iPhone 14 models: the standard iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Plus or Max, iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max. Not only is an iPhone 14 mini conspicuously absent, but it also shows how the iPhone 14 Pro will be basically the same size as the standard iPhone 14, which we'd expect given it's the same story for the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max will be joined by a larger Apple smartphone in the form of the iPhone 14 Plus or Max. Aside from that, the rears of all 4 phones look set to be similar to their predecessors, with the Pro mode sporting a trio of rear cameras and the standard phones sticking with 2 snappers. And a fresh set of iPhone 14 Pro renders based on schematics really do a good job at showing off what the evolved design could look like in metal and glass. They don't reveal the surprise design quirks, but rather give us a good impression of how the peel and punch hole camera Face ID cutout will look like, surprisingly decent as it happens. Don't expect a big change in the number of cameras the iPhone 14 Pro will bring, as the Pro phones are tipped to stick with the standard combo of a main, ultra-wide and telephoto array. Given how Apple phones regularly feature in our best camera phones lineup, that's no bad thing. But one leak has the iPhone 14 Pro tipped to get a 48 megapixel main camera, which could finally make a change from the 12 megapixel cameras Apple has used for years. While Cupertino's computational photography is some of the best around, having more megapixels to play with would likely give the iPhone 14 Pro more scope when it comes to processing light and details. We could be at a time where megapixels matter once more to Apple. But a regular Apple tipster has the standard iPhone 14 models tipped to stick with 12 megapixel cameras, with only the Pro models expected to get a 48 megapixel main camera. No changes have been touted for the ultra-wide camera, but we'd surprised if some effort wasn't made to improve the field of view and help remove some edge distortion. And there's a scope for the telephoto camera to get a zoom boost, as an Apple patent points toward the company working on a periscope style zoom camera. If such a feature was going to debut in an iPhone, it could be for the iPhone 14 Pro. But to muddy the waters, Apple Oracle Ming-Chi Kuo claims the periscope camera won't appear until the iPhone 15 in 2023. The lack of a telephoto upgrade for this year could make the iPhone 14 Pro a real letdown. Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo claims all models of the iPhone 14 will get an upgraded front-facing camera. It looks like this will involve a new, wider aperture, a more complex 6-part lens, and the addition of autofocus for the first time. Together, this should allow the iPhone's selfie snapper to take brighter photos that are easier to shoot thanks to the autofocus, and that will be less prone to distortion. For more, see our iPhone 14 cameras roundup for all the biggest rumored upgrades. iPhone 14 Pro specs and battery life. Following on from the A15 Bionic, we'd expect to see an A16 Bionic chip in the iPhone 14 Pro series, with improved performance across the board according to alleged benchmarks. However, a suite of rumors thus far have the iPhone 14 tipped to stick with the A15 Bionic chip, which would create a parity between the models' core specs. This would be a first for Apple as it has always equipped new iPhones with upgraded silicon. Ming-Chi Kuo has thrown his weight behind this cheap rumor, adding that Apple plans to ship more iPhone 14 Pro models than standard iPhone 14s. The latest A16 processor will be exclusive to two iPhone 14 Pro or high-end models, significantly boosting the shipment proportion of new iPhone high-end models in 2022 to 55 to 60%. The iPhone 14 is likely to offer a distinct hike in processor, graphics, and neural processing performance over the A15 Bionic. How much that will be noticeable to the average user might not be so closer. Storage is likely to go up to 1 TB, but there have been no solid storage rumors for the iPhone 14 Pro yet. A source from Weibo claiming to know the battery capacity of the iPhone 14 family shows that all models except the iPhone 14 Pro Max will be getting a slight increase in size. The iPhone 14 Max is in fact shrinking a little, but hopefully not enough to impact the phone's overall battery life. We'd be confident that the iPhone 14 Pro will match or exceed the 11 hours and 42 minutes the iPhone 13 Pro did in our battery test, which forces the phone to endlessly reload web pages on a cellular connection until it dies. The iPhone 13 Pro Max managed a lengthy 12 hours and 16 minutes, so we'd expect the iPhone 14 Pro Max do the same as better as Apple boost chip and phone efficiently. As for 5G, we are expecting the iPhone 14 Pro to use a new smaller 5G modem chip. The smaller size should mean it takes less mode to run and that there could be extra room for the battery to expand into. That would mean the already impressive battery life of the iPhone 13 can be improved upon even more. Sadly, it's looking like the iPhone 14 Pro might miss out the advancements made by Qualcomm's new 5G chip, the Snapdragon X70. The chip will include a 5G AI processor, the first of its kind, which should allow the modem system to use artificial intelligence to optimize a phone's antenna and better manage 5G beams going to and from a 5G phone. Qualcomm figures that will be particularly useful for mmWave-based 5G networks in places like stadiums and arenas, though AI can also help manage sub 6 Hz 5G signals as well. In addition to its cellular and Wi-Fi connectivity, the iPhone 14 could also gain the ability to connect to satellite networks. That's feature that first emerged in the build-up to last year's iPhone 13 launch, while the capability didn't arrive in time for those phones. Reliable tipster says emergency satellite communications are a possibility for the iPhone 14 models. The idea is that when you are in an area without good cellular or Wi-Fi connectivity, you can send text messages to emergency services over satellite networks, alerting them to your location.